The lie slipped out before I could stop it. A desperate reflex to dodge the chaos of college drama. I'm gay, I blurted to my new dorm mates, my voice cracking as I stood in our cramped common room, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes and skeptical stares. It was my first week at Stanford, and I'd already overheard enough gossip to know I didn't want to be the straight guy caught in a love triangle or worse. A campus scandal. My name is Ethan Carter, a freshman from a small town in Ohio, thrown into the whirlwind of California's elite university life. I wasn't prepared for the intensity of dorm dynamics cliques forming faster than I could learn names, whispers about hookups, and the relentless pressure to pick a side in every social skirmish. So, when my roommate Jake, a theater major with a knack for stirring the pot, started probing about my dating life, I panicked. Being gay seemed like the perfect shield. No girls chasing me, no jealous boyfriends, just neutrality. I thought it would keep me safe, invisible. I was wrong. By the end of that first week, my lie had taken on a life of its own. Jake, with his infectious grin and penchant for oversharing, declared me one of the boys and roped me into the dorm's unofficial queer crew. They were a tight-knit group: Jake, the dramatic ringleader; Mia, a fierce lesbian with a dry wit; and Leo, a quiet sophomore with eyes that seemed to see through everyone. They welcomed me with open arms. Literally, group hugs were a nightly ritual. I didn't mind at first. It felt warm, like the family I'd left behind in Ohio. But then came the cuddling. It started innocently enough. One night, after a marathon study session, Jake flopped onto my bed, whining about a bad audition. "Ethan, you're so chill," he mumbled, throwing an arm over my chest. "Stay here." "Yeah. You're like a human teddy bear." I laughed it off, but my heart raced not from attraction, but from the sinking realization that I was in too deep. The lie was no longer just words. It was a role I had to play. Soon, Mia joined in, sprawling across my lap during movie nights. And even Leo, the quiet one, started lingering too close, his shoulder brushing mine in a way that felt deliberate. I couldn't tell them the truth now. They'd trusted me, shared their own stories: Jake's first heartbreak, Mia's coming out struggles, Leo's fear of never finding someone who'd understand his shyness. My lie felt like a betrayal waiting to explode. But the longer I kept it up, the harder it was to back out. And then there was Leo. Leo was different. Where Jake was loud and Mia was bold, Leo was a quiet storm. He'd sit in the corner during our late-night talks, sketching in a notebook, his dark curls falling into his eyes. Sometimes, I'd catch him watching me, his gaze soft but piercing, like he was trying to unravel me. "You're hard to read, Ethan," he said one night, his voice low as we sat alone on the dorm roof, the campus sprawling below us. "Like you're hiding something." My stomach twisted, but I just shrugged, muttering something about being shy. He didn't push, but his smile small. Knowing made me wonder what he saw. Weeks turned into months, and the cuddling became a nightly routine. Jake would crash on my bed. Mia would demand spooning rights, and Leo would just sit close, his knee touching mine, his presence steady but electric. I told myself I was fine, that I could keep up the act. But every touch, every shared laugh, made the lie heavier. I wasn't gay, but I was starting to care about these people, especially Leo, in ways I hadn't expected. His quiet gestures, like leaving me coffee during finals or slipping me a sketch of the campus fountain, felt intimate, personal. I didn't know what to do with that feeling, so I buried it. One night, everything changed. It was late. The dorm quiet except for the hum of the heater. Jake and Mia were out at a party, leaving Leo and me alone. We were studying in my room, sprawled on the floor with textbooks and empty coffee cups. Leo was sketching again, his pencil scratching softly. I glanced over, expecting another landscape. But instead, I saw my own face staring back from his notebook-me eyes. My crooked smile, captured with a tenderness that stole my breath. Leo. What I started. But he cut me off, his cheeks flushing. I like you, Ethan, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I don't know if you feel the same, but I see you. Not just the guy who's one of us. You. He looked away, his hands trembling as he closed the notebook. If I'm wrong, just tell me. My heart pounded. This was the moment the lie could unravel. I wanted to tell him the truth, to confess that I'd faked it all to avoid drama. But looking into his eyes, so open, so vulnerable, I couldn't. Not because I was scared of the fallout, but because I realized something terrifying. I didn't want to lose him. Not as a friend. Not as whatever this was becoming. I don't know what I feel, I said finally, my voice hoarse. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the truth either. Leo nodded, his expression unreadable, and we sat in silence, the weight of his confession hanging between us. That night, I couldn't sleep. Leo's words echoed in my head, mixing with the guilt of my deception. I'd come to Stanford to start fresh, to be someone new. But I'd built that new life on a lie, and now it was pulling me apart. I cared about Leo more than I'd ever cared about anyone. But could I keep pretending, knowing it might break his heart? Or worse, could I face the truth about myself, whatever that was? The next morning, I avoided Leo's eyes at breakfast. He didn't push, but his quiet presence felt louder than ever, like a question I couldn't answer. Jake and Mia, oblivious to the tension, dragged us to a campus pride event, a kaleidoscope of rainbow flags and laughter. I played along, wearing a rainbow pin Jake shoved into my hand, but every smile felt like a mask. Leo stayed close, his shoulder brushing mine in the crowd, and I wondered if he could hear my heart racing. The event was a blur of music and speeches, but one moment stuck with me. A speaker, a trans woman with a voice like fire, talked about authenticity, how living your truth, no matter how messy, was the only way to find peace. Her words hit me like a punch. I wasn't living my truth. I was hiding behind a lie, and it was suffocating me. But coming clean now meant risking everything, the friendships I'd built, the trust I'd earned, and whatever was growing between me and Leo. Back at the dorm, I tried to act normal, but the weight of Leo's confession clung to me. That night, as we all piled into the common room for a movie, Leo sat next to me, closer than usual. His hand rested on the couch, inches from mine, and I felt a pull I couldn't explain. I wanted to reach out, to close the gap, but fear stopped me. What if I was just confused? What if this was the lie talking, not me? The next week was torture. Leo didn't bring up his feelings again, but he didn't pull away either. He'd leave me notes with silly doodles, bring me snacks during late-night study sessions, and smile in a way that made my chest ache. Jake and Mia noticed the shift, teasing us about being dorm boyfriends. I laughed it off, but inside, I was unraveling. I wasn't gay, at least. I didn't think I was. But Leo wasn't just a friend anymore. He was something more. Something I couldn't name. One rainy afternoon, I found myself alone with Mia in the common room. She was scrolling through her phone, her usual sarcasm softened by the quiet. "You okay, Ethan?" she asked, not looking up. "You've been weird lately." I hesitated, the truth clawing at my throat. "Just figuring stuff out," I said, hoping she'd drop it. She didn't. "Look, I know you're new to this whole out thing, but you don't have to have it all figured out. Just be honest with yourself. And with Leo. He's into you. You know." Her words stung. She thought I was struggling with my identity, not with a lie. I wanted to tell her everything, to confess and be free. But the thought of losing her, Jake, and Leo stopped me. Instead, I nodded, muttering something about needing time. That night, I made a decision. I couldn't keep lying, but I couldn't tell the truth either, not yet. I needed to understand what I felt for Leo, whether it was real or just the pressure of my charade. So, I started paying attention. I noticed how my pulse quickened when he laughed, how his quiet strength grounded me, how his sketches made me feel seen in a way I never had before. I started seeking him out, not as part of the group, but alone study sessions in the library, walks across campus, late-night talks on the roof. One evening, as we sat by the campus lake, the water reflecting the stars, Leo opened up. He told me about his childhood in Seattle, how he'd always felt different, how coming out had been both a relief and a burden. "I thought I'd never find someone who gets me," he said, his voice soft. "Then I met you." My throat tightened. I wanted to tell him I wasn't who he thought I was. But instead, I reached for his hand. His fingers curled around mine, warm and steady. And for the first time, I didn't pull away. It felt right. But it also felt like a deeper lie. I was falling for him, but I was still pretending to be someone I wasn't. The turning point came during spring break. Most of the dorm cleared out, but Leo and I stayed behind, claiming we had projects to finish. Really, I just wanted more time with him. We spent days exploring the empty campus, sharing secrets and silences. One night, under a blanket of stars, he kissed me. It was soft, tentative, but it set my world on fire. I kissed him back, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and certainty. For that moment, the lie didn't matter. All I knew was that I wanted him. But the guilt came crashing back the next morning. As Leo slept beside me, his arm draped over my chest, I realized I couldn't keep this up. He deserved the truth, even if it destroyed us. I slipped out of bed, my hand shaking, and wrote a letter. It was messy, raw, confessing everything me lie, my fear, my feelings for him. I left it on his desk and walked out, my heart breaking with every step. When I returned to the dorm that evening, Leo was waiting. His face was unreadable, the letter clutched in his hand. "Ethan," he said, his voice steady but laced with hurt. "Why didn't you just tell me?" I froze, expecting anger, rejection. Instead, he stepped closer, his eyes searching mine. "I get why you lied," he said. "You were scared. But this," he gestured between us, "this is real, isn't it?" I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't know who I was. I still don't. Not completely. But I know I care about you. Leo. More than I've ever cared about anyone. He didn't say anything for a long moment. Then he pulled me into a hug. Tight and fierce. You're an idiot. He whispered, his voice breaking. But you're my idiot. We talked for hours, unraveling the mess I'd made. I told him about my small-town fears, my need to fit in, my confusion about my feelings. He listened, never judging, and shared his own struggles, how he'd doubted himself, how he'd been afraid to hope for more with me. By the end, we were both crying, but it was a release, a new beginning. Coming clean to Jake and Mia was harder. I braced for their anger, but they surprised me. Jake laughed, calling me the worst gay imposter ever, while Mia punched my arm, saying, "You're lucky we love you, dumbass." They forgave me, but I knew I'd have to earn back their trust. I was ready to try. Over the next few months, Leo and I navigated something new. I didn't have a label for myself, not gay, not straight, just Ethan, figuring it out. Leo was patient, letting me set the pace. We went on dates, held hands in public, faced the whispers and stares. Some days were hard, especially when I doubted myself. But Leo's steady presence kept me grounded. The real test came at the end of the semester. I decided to go home to Ohio for the summer, to face my family and tell them about Leo. I was terrified, but I couldn't keep hiding. My parents didn't understand at first, their small-town values clashing with my truth. But they listened, and slowly, they started to accept that I was still their son, just with a heart that loved differently. When I returned to Stanford, Leo was waiting at the airport, his smile brighter than the California sun. We didn't have all the answers, but we had each other. My lie had started as a shield, a way to avoid drama, but it had led me to something better, a truth I hadn't known I was searching for. I wasn't just the guy who faked being gay. I was Ethan, learning to love, learning to be honest, learning to live. And as we walked back to the dorm, hand in hand, I realized something profound. The drama I'd feared wasn't in the relationships I'd built or the love I'd found. It was in the hiding, the pretending, the fear of being seen. I was done with that. With Leo by my side, I was ready to face the world not as a lie, but as myself.